Now at 10, the Bexar County Sheriff speaking out and defending his efforts to corral coronavirus at the county jail. My co-anchor Aaron Wright joins us now with details and how long he's been planning for this crisis. Aaron?
Deb, Sheriff Salazar says they've been taking this seriously since February. Even in March, they had an incident when an inmate said that he had the coronavirus. They treated that as a dry run for how they would move things in inmates going forward. In a video response to KENS 5, the sheriff demonstrated the PPE available to sheriff's deputies and what was being used inside the jail. That includes face masks, eye protection, and breathing masks. Salazar says they have space right now to isolate inmates that have come into contact with someone who tested positive. Deputies are reporting to Deputy Chief Roland Schuler. He's got 20 years of medical experience as a registered nurse if they become symptomatic or test positive. From there, they are instructed to self-quarantine and self-monitor at home. Sheriff Salazar explains he's proud of how they've taken action in stopping coronavirus.
So I'm really quite proud of what we've done. We managed to bring down the inmate population in anticipation of having positive inmates in the facility. We were able to bring down the average daily population by about 1,000 people.
This weekend, we learned 2 inmates in the jail had tested positive. Deb, back to you.
All right, Aaron.